Good morning, KB and Hidden. This is going to be one of those weeks, maybe even one of those months, where nobody shows because they're in so much pain. I'm going to be starting in a few seconds. Good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Warehouse. My name is Mike. It is the 18th of November at 11 o'clock Central European Time. And as expected, there are crickets in the chat. KB and Hidden are here and nobody else. And that is to be expected. We've had some really, really crappy price action over the last, October the 10th, really, if we want to go back there. through 5 weeks now of really 6 weeks of really bad price action has shook a lot of people out the market. Sentiment is at all-time lows. I've never seen so many miserable people. But let me remind you of one thing. July 2023 was a lot worse than this. There was an existential crisis back in 2023. This isn't even... I'm not even worried about these prices. And I don't think you should be either. I've watched, again, I got up early this morning to watch a couple of other people I hold in high regard. And even they're throwing in the towel. I mean, there's people literally... They're just looking at the camera and blinking. I don't know what's going on, but that's not what we're here for. I'm going to show you a lot of stuff today, and a lot of it is to do with Bitcoin. I'm going to show you the Bitcoin chart today because we have come down to where one of the targets was. We had 3 targets. We've managed to successfully smash the back doors in of 2 of those targets, and we've also tickled the undercarriage of the last target. So this is the last line in the sand. This is what I said last week. This is where the bulls, this is their last stand. And that sounds really dramatic, and we're not really a dramatic channel. But if we keep going further than this, maybe 1 or 2% further, but if we keep going further down, we're pretty much at previous all-time highs. We might as well admit this has been a bear market for the last 2 months. But I don't think we're there yet. Now, of course, we're going to show you the markets, look at some X-Files. We're going to go through the implosion of Bitcoin. We're going to go through Peter Schiff. This is going to be funny. I need to tell you about this in a minute. We're going to talk about the SEC finally admitting that they're going to do their job. We're going to talk about, is there any bullish momentum behind the XRP ETFs going live? We're going to look at Athena trying to tackle depegging. This is something I've been warning you about probably for a year and a half when I told you I was selling my Athena airdrop on Binance. Then we're going to finish up with not Hotel California, but Hotel Trump. We're going to talk about tokenization of hotels. And that is pretty much your show for today. And as I said, I'm just going to get on with the show because I'm not expecting many people to make any kind of appearance on today's show. It's going to be brutal. People are going to wake up, they're going to look at the price of Bitcoin, they're going to turn the alarm off, and they're just going to go back to sleep. Meanwhile, 5 of us are here talking about crypto, but I wouldn't want it any other way. Now, before we begin, a little bit of light-hearted fun tonight on Binance and also on YouTube. We are going to do our Wolfies quiz. We split this into 2 sets of prizes. One for the Binance community, where we will pick, I think we normally pick about 5 people at random to win. And then the other pot is to go to the people playing the game over on YouTube. Now, there's going to be lots of prizes. So let me go through. There'll be 5 winners on Binance. Then there's going to be 4 Crypto Warehouse Wheel of Fortune spins. And then there's going to be the top 3. So that's 7, 12 people. 12 people are going to win tonight. And the big question is not, who are you going to win? No. The question is, are we going to get 12 people on the stream tonight? That's the question. Are 12 people going to show up? Otherwise, KB will have to open his laptop, his iPad, his mobile phone. Hidden Agendas is going to have to put it on the TV. He's going to have to put it on his 3 laptops that he uses. We're going to have multiple accounts to try and make up these 12 winners. So that's the state we're in right now, okay? Me worrying that we're going to get 12 people for the quiz tonight. That's what I have to worry about, not a $91,000 or a $90,000 Bitcoin. Anyway, I suppose we should get started with the show and have a look at a few things. 90K breached. That is the title of the show today. We are going to very quickly close down the Binance stream. Now, for the time being, I'm not going to be reading out Binance comments. And the reason is very simple. Tomorrow is my operation. And it's an eye operation because I literally can't see past the end of my nose. How I've been able to do these streams all these weeks, I have no idea. But if you see me squinting, give me a bit of time because I'm having one eye done tomorrow and then hopefully one eye done in the new year. And then I should be tickety-boo. So there you go. If you see me squinting and I look like Mr. Magoo, you know why. Now, let me make sure that this comes up on the screen so you can actually see what I am talking about. And as if by magic, it appears. Also, I keep forgetting to update the bottom left-hand corner, which is the fans. I haven't updated that in months. I'm probably going to rejig this layout a little bit more. I feel very small down here. And this is supposed to be a little bit more about me talking to you rather than me showing you charts. So maybe I'll make myself a little bit bigger. Grow a little bit. Who knows? But let's get into where the prices are. Bitcoin is back at $91,500. That is down another 4%. Ethereum is still clinging on to $3,000. Some of these prices, I'll have to admit, they're doing me proud. I was expecting, when you see this kind of capitulation, downwards action, look at the amount Bitcoin has dropped over 7 days. I know I've said this yesterday, but I'm going to reiterate the point. Bitcoin dropped 12% in a week. Now, if you didn't show me anything else on the screen and you said to me, what would XRP, what would BNB, what would Solana drop? I'd probably say 15 to 20% on the whole. That's the kind of action. When you see Bitcoin down by such a large amount, I expect the alts to capitulate and that liquidity flow from the alts into Bitcoin. If you imagine Bitcoin is the battering ram, and when you're trying to basically hold on to your prized asset, you sacrifice everything around it to keep it going. And Bitcoin falling, I mean, look at what it's done against XRP. Look at what it's done against Solana. Look at what it's done against the other coins further down here. Now, some of them, when we look at Hyperliquid, I'm not going to talk about Zcash. I don't believe this. I don't care what people tell me about Zcash. I don't believe this. I believe the rumor that I heard weeks ago that I'm not going to tell you because that rumor is unsubstantiated. And I'm not going to do that. But I don't believe this at all. But you look at some of these coins down here, and they're actually green over a 7-day period. Not many, but some. And that's unusual for Bitcoin to be performing in the pack. We have seen a little breakdown of Bitcoin dominance as well, but not to the extent that we should see. And one of the videos that I watched today, it was Ben Cowan's video, and he was talking about bulls versus bears. He looked at the bear scenario and the bull scenario. And I agree with him on some points, and I don't agree with him on other points. I agree with him on the point that the midterm is always a bear market, and that the midterms are in November next year. Okay? So, Trump won the election in 2024, November 2024. The midterm is considered November 2026 because it's mid. It's halfway between his 4-year period. There's always a down move halfway through your presidency, and that's a kind of another cycle that we have. So whatever happens with Bitcoin between now and next November, we're going to go down next year. That's never been in doubt. Where we come down to is the question. Ben Cowan thinks we're going to hit about $50,000. My rule of thumb is we hit the previous all-time high, which is about $69,000. So that's where I disagree with him. I don't disagree with him on the fact it's going to happen. It's how far and how deep the correction is. And because Bitcoin is such a large asset, I believe we will have shallower dips, whereas he is predicting a 70% correction. Now, again, we can differ about the prices. We can agree on the fact that we're going to go to those areas. Now, if we know we're going to have a bear market next year, what's left of the bull market is the question. We should be heading towards all-time highs if we follow the 4-year cycle. That's clearly not the case. Do we take into account the dip because of everything else that's going on? The fact that we have had a lockdown for so long, has that extended the bull run just to allow us to get one final push? Maybe. We've had a death cross. What's happened on nearly every single death cross in the last few years has been a rally. Now, it doesn't rally on the day of the death cross, it rallies within a couple of weeks of the death cross. We are at the final week and a half of November. We've got December left, and then we're in 2026. So if we have to move, we're going to have to move in the next 6 to 8 weeks. I don't think we are going to be at all-time highs in May next year. I don't think we're going to be at 150,000 in May. If we're going to 150,000, or if we say 50% from where we are now is 135,000, if we go there and you say, well, that's going to be a 4-week move, we are at Christmas. And the problem then is there's no liquidity for 2 weeks around Christmas. So we have to do something pretty quickly, or we're going to put in maybe a lower high. Maybe we only come up to maybe 110, 112, 114, maybe. But I don't believe it's straight down. Nothing is straight down. And one thing I'm going to show you on the Bitcoin chart in a minute is this has mirrored the January move. The January inauguration was January the 19th. We have had an identical move to that right now. That's been the move. Now, we're going to get into that in a minute, but we're going to basically put these to one side. Let's see what's winning. ICP is regaining. Aster. Now, I did say that I bought Aster yesterday. I told you I'd bought some Aster. But what I want to make very, very clear, I don't buy very big bags of coins. So when I buy Aster, I buy very, very small amounts. My bags were packed in September. And you could probably say my bags have been packed for 2 or 3 years. But when I buy small bags of things, I buy coins that I think are going to move. And one thing that I always tell you to look at is bouncers. They're the coins that bounce either before the end of a downward move or at the very end of a downward move. What coins bounce back the fastest? They're the ones that have some level of narrative and eyes on them. And think about it this way. If you go into a department store and everything's on sale, and let's say it's a gadget store, you're not going to run over and buy bloody USB cables, are you? No, you're going to go and get yourself an iPad, or you're going to go and get yourself an iPhone or a laptop. You're going to go after the assets that you consider to have the most value. And that's what I would call bouncers. Perceived value. They're the ones where people will be buying the dip. Now, that can be narrative led, of course, because more people talk about Hype and Aster and Monero, and yes, they talk about those coins, but they are the coins that have the degen gaze. That's a great term that I've just coined, and I'm going to keep that one. The degen gaze, okay? ICP, Aster, Hype, Monero being one of the privacy coins. What else is up over the last 24 hours? Not much else. So you're looking there. If you forget for 1 minute Monero and Unus, you're looking there at Hype, Aster, and ICP. They've got the gaze at this moment in time. So if we do correct again to the downside, and let's say we go back down to 88,000, they would be the 3 coins at this very moment in time that I would look at picking up. If we look at Aster, for example, and we compare it to Hype, Hype has 4 times the market cap of Aster, and Aster is trying to challenge Hype. If I was to choose between those 2 coins, I would certainly be buying Aster because it's got more leg room to grow, in my opinion. Your other argument could be Hype spends all of its fees on buying back its token and it's just going to send the token to $100. Again, good argument. But at this very moment in time, I would say, what are the chances of Aster going to, say, $3 compared to Hype going to $100? And I would say you've more chance of Aster going to $3 than Hype going to $100. So that would be my argument. I do believe both of them are very good projects, but I do also believe that Hyperliquid is going to run out of steam a little bit when we get towards the bear market. If we get there in April, May, I think it will run out of bull market push faster than Aster, if that makes sense. Because Aster, believe it or not, it has a lot of people behind it compared to Hype. So if I had to pick a horse to win that race, it would be Aster. But it doesn't mean that they're not that the other is a bad project. It's just the way I would look at things. Now we're going to look at the S show. Okay, Zcash is down, but again, look at the price. I think that's still going to go down below $300. Dash, again, I don't see any future in these privacy coins. We covered that yesterday. Mantle is down. Mantle is a great project. Pump, again, Pump is a good project. Pump has revenue. That's why I think it's a good project. Other noticeable losers. I mean, You've got a combination of everything. World Liberty Financial I like, Quant I like, Avalanche I like, Morpho I like, Kronos I like, but it hasn't done anything for about 4 years. Pudgy Penguins, one of the biggest IPs in crypto. So, again, I don't know whether I would read too much into the losers as much as I would read into the gainers, if that makes sense. Anyway, I suppose we should get on with some X-Files. Markets, and again, I don't know why I don't feel so bearish compared to others, but I just don't feel that this is the end right now. If we come up to 107, 108,000 and we get rejected and we come back down, that was the last push. Okay? I'm not going to sit here like cryptos are us and say we're just going to keep going up for the next 4 years, when clearly that is not the case. We need to see what the next push does to crypto. That's what we need to see, because there is going to be one more push. Nothing goes up or down forever. That's a golden rule. Now, Mark Yusko is the hero that we didn't know we needed, and he has started to comment heavily over the last couple of weeks, and I'm grateful for it, because I don't know if you've ever watched this guy. He's quite an old guy. I think he runs some kind of investment firm. He was at Morgan Creek. He is at Morgan Creek. I mean, he's a really good guy to listen to. And when I mean a really good guy to listen to, he's very understandable. He doesn't really speak in many big words. He's not one of these people that tries to be pretentious and talk about things like Laffer curves that you don't understand. He talks about sensible things in a sensible way. Every form of money in history has eventually failed in that it has been replaced by a harder form. Livestock to seashells, seashells to metals, metals to gold. The logical successor in the digital age is Bitcoin. It's not a scheme, it's monetary Darwinism, adapt or die. And again, he's done further tweets about this. What I would say is that I wouldn't necessarily use gold and Bitcoin in the same term as money. That's where I would differentiate. I would rather use SOV, store of value. I think you'd be best off looking at store of value. That's how I would look at Bitcoin and gold. Maybe you can compare other cryptocurrencies, but for me, yes, gold was used in trade, and silver was used in trade, and all these kind of things. But I don't think Bitcoin is a pristine asset, and it's a store of value. Yes, but for me, it's not money. It is money by definition, by very definition of what money is. Bitcoin is money, but that's not how I perceive it. I perceive it more of a store of value. Now, I have got a few others to go through, and then we're going to get into a bit more chatty type stuff. I do have my phone with me today to keep an eye on chat. Bullish Bull is here, Alpha is here, and again, I am very, very grateful for anybody that shows up today, because I tell you what, it is absolute chaos out there in crypto Twitter, and for that matter, in what's it called? The other place where people go and chat, Reddit. Reddit is chaos as well. Big to watch for Bitcoin. Bitcoin remain the CME gap is at 91,500. The 90,000 region, as well as the $2,500 region for ETH, have acted as strong support and resistance over the past few years. I'm going to talk about the tweet that I put out on Friday to show you where I think we're going to go. For those of you that didn't see Friday's stream, I'll just bring it back up again. I think I covered it on yesterday's stream as well. I'm not too sure. Now, sentiment, they kind of see through a lot of noise, and they kind of talk in facts. The vast majority of cryptocurrency are now flashing extreme pain for average trading returns. Wallets active in the past 30 days have an average performance of, and these are the negative returns over the last 30 days for these assets: Cardano, Chainlink, Ethereum, Bitcoin, and XRP. Okay? Everything is down. You are probably, if you're new to crypto, in mass panic right now. You are probably in mass panic. And that, I think, is where you need to be very, very careful. Because capitulation is exactly the opposite of what you need to do, which is buy the bottom, sell the top. if we are near the end of this corrective move, which I'm going to show you my target for that in a second, then these are good buying opportunities. And I don't know how many times I've had this conversation about when everybody capitulates, when everybody who stops watching these streams, when everybody stops logging into Binance, that's normally a bottom signal. Okay, when I start getting DMs, I get DMs on WhatsApp and Telegram at two precise moments. Number one, when we broke $120,000, I got DMs. We came back down to 110,000. DMs went quiet. In fact, I made a comment in chat at the time saying people are asking me if now's a good time to buy Bitcoin. Secondly, I get DMs now. What's happening with Bitcoin then? Why is crypto crashing? What's going on with the cryptocurrencies? Right? I get it 2 times. One's a top signal and one's a bottom signal. Well, guess what? In the last 48 hours, I've had 5 DMs. So, I had 6 or 7 DMs at 120,000 plus, nothing since. Now I've had 4 or 5 DMs, 5 DMs in the last 24, 48 hours. Is it a bottom signal? I would certainly think so. I'm not saying we're not going to come down a touch more. I think we have a little bit more to go. But I think we have, and we said this on Saturday as well, we're at 93,000. We've done the majority of these moves. Now, $200 million worth of crypto longs liquidated in the past 60 minutes. This is the worst part of crypto. We come down to a level, we wait there for a few days, people long, they get liquidated. We come down again, people long, we get liquidated. It never ceases to amaze me that people just keep longing and longing and longing, okay? Now, in hindsight, and hindsight is a great thing, you should have shorted from 126,000. When everybody was telling you that we were going to keep going up, when I was getting all the DMs, I should have shorted Bitcoin, and I didn't because I just hold spot. But now, for the love of everything that is holy, please stop longing Bitcoin, okay? We're going to get there, and we're going to find a bottom, and then we're going to move back up. And the strength of that move back up, who knows? But we're going to move back up. We're going to have a relief bounce, a dead cat bounce. We're going to find a bottom and move up slowly. Something's going to happen to the upside because this is not going to drop off the end of a curve. Now, for those of you that don't know, the Oracle is going to be in Dubai from the 2nd to the 16th or 15th of December. And the reason I'm telling you this is there is a Binance Blockchain Week. And Peter Schiff, who we're going to talk about in a bit, he is going to be debating CZ on gold and Bitcoin. And this was agreed before any of this crap happened, okay? So CZ was in a position of strength. And now Peter Schiff is going to walk into that Binance Blockchain Week like McGregor walking into the octagon. He's going to be swaggering. He's going to have his gold chains on. He's going to have his grill in. He's going to have his cap on, make gold great again. And he's going to be unbearable. He's going to be unbearable. The one thing that he doesn't understand is CZ is going to dismantle him piece by piece. And that's the only thing that I'm looking forward to. So if that is broadcast live, I will try and stream that live because that's going to be one of the defining moments. That could be at the bottom. That could be the bottom of the market. When Peter Schiff debates CZ, that could be where we start to move back up, when people realise how bad it is. Now then, very quickly, El Salvador bought a load more Bitcoin in the dip. They bought $100 million, and there is a chart somewhere which was shared by Bukalele or whatever he's called, and it basically highlights just how much they've shot up in value. They've bought a lot more. They've now got 7,500 Bitcoin, which is an awful lot of Bitcoin, I believe. Let's try this last one. I need to change the light on my camera because I can't see my keys. Now then, this was my prediction from, I think, Friday. So short-term prices, again, covered this on Friday. Don't think I brought it up yesterday, but if you haven't seen it, I'm showing you again. These are the deep levels of correction that Bitcoin could go to from 126,000. We have 100,800, 94,500 where we did hang around for a very long time, and 88,200. Now, we're going to bring up the Bitcoin chart because I want to show you exactly where we are and exactly where we've come to. And again, these are only targets. It doesn't mean we can't go lower. These are the targets based on the types of correction that you have in a bull run. You have these types of corrections in a bull run. And for the OGs out there, I made the video on Sunday about this. And this move was from what? January the 19th, we moved all the way down directly after Trump was elected. We have pretty much to within a few $100 done exactly the same move now. Okay? It does not mean that we have reached the end of this bull run. Okay? There are many mitigating circumstances. And if depending on who you listen to, those mitigating circumstances are going to play out over the next few weeks. If you listen to Besant said last night or this morning, the markets can take short-term pain for long-term gain. That's what he said. Now, I have my line on here I drew this, I think I drew this yesterday or the day before. That's the line that I said we'd come down to. And boy did we get close. And we can go lower. Okay, these are only the prices based on very simple math, 20, 25% and 30% correction. That is all they are based on. And they are not absolutes. They are zones, areas, whatever you want to call them, points of interest. Okay, it doesn't mean we can't come lower, but what it means is that if we have a reversal, we will have a reversal at a significant price. Okay? As I said yesterday, anyone can be a bear and just say we're going to go down. Okay? We're going to go down to where? Are you going to call for us to go to $45,000 in December? Is that what kind of bear you are? Are you going to call for $35,000? At some point, and this is another thing to bear in mind, there is no such thing in real trading as bulls and bears. They are people with a bullish move mentality and a bearish move mentality, but they're the same individuals. If you keep longing and there's liquidity pockets for them to take advantage of, you are wrecked. Simple as. And I don't think Hyperliquid have helped, by the way, because everything is on chain now and everything's viable. And if you look at the liquidations, for example, there's now a disparity between the liquidations on centralized exchanges and liquidations on Hyperliquid. And longs are being liquidated on centralized exchanges, but shorts are being liquidated on Hyperliquid because everything is public, everything's there and in real time, and people are going after them. And maybe there is a reason for that other than the one I'm trying to express, but I'm not going to cover that either. All I'll say is that at some point there will be a relief rally. I do not for 1 minute believe we are going to $70,000 from here. Okay? If we go to $70,000, that is the bottom of the bear market. Okay? Now, again, I can talk about any one of these where we came on here and said, this is not the end. Okay? We can even go further back. There was a very, very deep one, which we had. Was it this one here? That one? This one, I think. That was not the end. We talked about that one. That wasn't so deep. And that one. Okay? At each of these moments, people basically stopped watching, stopped interacting, stopped caring. Okay? And that normally signified the bottom. So the fewer people we've got in chat today, the better for me. The more messages on DMs I get, the better. Because that's a bottom signal. The same way that when we get... Hang on a second. The same way that when we get up, let's say we have some kind of relief rally, and let's say we come back up here to the bull market support band, and let's say we get rejected, okay? If we start to do this, then I think we come lower. We have to take out that. We're a long way from that. We need a lot of things to happen. Okay, the rate cuts, which are not priced in, that doesn't necessarily mean we're going to just rocket to the moon on its own. We need a lot more than that. The stimmy checks are coming in June next year. That's not going to help us. Okay, those ents coming over the hill on the fourth day, they're not coming over the hill on the fourth day anymore. They're coming over the hill on the 168th day. War's finished by the time the stimmy checks get here, so they can be thrown in the bin. The rate cuts, we might get one more rate cut before Powell leaves. Powell leaves in May, and he's talking about one more rate cut. If we don't get a rate cut in December, what's Bessant's definition of short-term pain? Is he talking 6-12 months? Is he talking 6-12 weeks? We don't know. So there's lots of things that have got to happen to help us get out of this situation. And this isn't just crypto either. This is the stock market as well. Amazon, Apple, Nvidia, all been kicked squarely in the nuts. Okay? So don't look at crypto, especially if you've got a portfolio that doesn't have Bitcoin in, for example. Don't look at, if you've got a portfolio that's Solana and Cardano or Solana XRP, and you look at that in isolation, you're not taking into account what's actually going on in the world. And at this moment in time, there's a little bit of a maelstrom going on, and the stock market did incredibly well. The other thing that you will notice is the M2 money supply individuals. They've all vanished off the face of the earth. Bitcoin goes up with the money supply. Look at Bitcoin go. We diverged from the money supply about, what, 8 weeks, 12 weeks ago? Again, you can, and I said this at the time, by the way, you can overlay the price of eggs and the price of oil with Bitcoin, and you'll probably find a correlation, okay? You can find any chart you want. COVID. You could overlay COVID over Bitcoin and probably find a correlation somewhere along the line. But it doesn't mean they're directly correlated. It just happens to mean they match. So be very careful when somebody shows you a chart and says, oh, look, Bitcoin is following the S&P. Bitcoin is following the M2 money supply. Bitcoin is following the DXY. There are an awful lot of things that go into making a cake. Okay? You can't say that your cherry pie is solely down to the fact that you used an egg, right? Bitcoin being the cherry pie. So obviously take them on board, look at Bitcoin dominance, look at the DXY, look at the S&P, look at the money supply, look at all of these things, yes. Okay, and they all help in their individual little way, but it's like Buckaroo. You just have to understand that everything has to be taken as a whole. You can't rely on one thing. Crypto markets implode. Bitcoin at 91, ETH at 2,900, altcoins deep in the red. And there's a lovely little picture. I should just leave this on the screen now, shouldn't I, and walk away for half an hour. The crypto market extended its deep slide with every heavyweight in the top 10 flashing red. Another wave. Anyway, we're going to make this a little bit bigger because I can't read anything. This operation cannot come soon enough. More than 890 million in positions were wiped out over the last 24 hours, adding fresh momentum to a sell-off already fueled by weakening macro sentiment and tightening liquidity across exchanges. One thing I did notice as well over the last 24 hours, there is a really good account to follow. I think it's called Whale. Is it called Whale Watch? Something like that. And it shows you large transactions moving between chains. And I saw at least 5 Tether withdrawals yesterday. At least 5. 50 million, 100 million was one of them. 200 million was another. Although that wasn't really... I don't think that left. I think that went to another exchange. So there's a lot of money leaving. There's a lot of people cashing out and moving out. And normally, as we've said before, we were seeing $1 billion worth of Tether being minted 6-8 weeks ago. And now we're seeing 50, 100, $200 million leaving. That's normally not a good sign either. But again, when people are shaken and they think things are going to go lower, they're going to sell. And again, it doesn't mean they're right. Arthur Hayes sold the bottom and bought the top. And had he held his conviction, he'd have won. But he didn't. And he didn't. he ended up buying at the wrong price. I think he sold at whatever 3.4, 3.8, maybe he bought back at 4.2, whatever it was. There was a big difference between what he sold and bought at, that he should have just stuck to his conviction and he'd have been right. And instead, he FOMO'd, and that was a mistake. So even the biggest minds out there, they're going to get this wrong. Nobody out there is going to be perfect, okay? And again, no bull is going to win every single time, and no bear is going to win every single time. You have bullish and bearish sentiment in the market. At the minute, it's very, very bearish. Bitcoin continues to dictate the market, sinking to 91,500. We saw sub 90,000 at, I don't know, 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning. My notifications went off, but luckily I was sound asleep and dreaming like a baby. Ethereum didn't fare any better. That came down to below 3,000, although it's back at 3,080 now, so that's done okay. And basically, it's not a great environment. And again, I can show you the chart. We can talk about these prices. I think 88,000 is going to be the bottom. And if not, then 87, around that figure, I think is going to be the bottom. And maybe the bottom is already in. But there is a thing called buyer exhaustion, which you tend to get when prices top out. There is also such a thing as seller exhaustion. And at the minute, every time we move up, everything is being sold into. Everything is being sold into. But at some point, there is exhaustion. There is absolute exhaustion. I thought I'd copied that then. Maybe I didn't. Right. This man, on a bad day, is insufferable to me. And on a good day, I love him. Okay? He is like Marmite. And if you don't know what Marmite is, go and look it up. He is like Marmite, depending on the time of the day. When Bitcoin was ripping to all-time highs, he didn't tweet. He didn't say a word. And guess what? Bears don't. Bears don't speak when the prices move up. But as soon as Bitcoin goes into a corrective phase, Peter Schiff and the bears all come out. It's the modern-day tulip. Okay. I'm not going to go into the history lesson of tulips. But it was a very different time. It was a very different time in the world. He seized the ongoing market downturn as another opportunity to slam CNBC over the regular covering of Bitcoin news. There he is. You know what? You can say what you want about him, but he has an incredible beard. I mean, I'm waiting to be fully grey. Okay, I want to go fully grey because I want a Schiff beard. That's what I'm going to call it. I want a Schiff beard. I mean, he is like a hairy potato. Okay, and it's beautiful. What a beautiful face on that man. It's a shame what comes out of his fingers when he types isn't so beautiful. As expected, the biggest Bitcoin critic, Peter Schiff, has become increasingly louder of the criticism as Bitcoin continues to slip deeper into red territory. This time around, Schiff directed his condemnation at CNBC, talking about Bitcoin's bullish state. And again, we can go on to talk about this down here. In his latest post, Schiff attacks the analysts and their guests, saying that they are at a loss to explain why Bitcoin is falling when so many expected higher prices by now. Bitcoin is just a modern-day tulip. While it appears that Peter Schiff has ceased ceased the distressing moments to bash Bitcoin on his latest dip, the critic has specifically reinstated his long-running jab that Bitcoin, ever since it was trading below $1,000. Again, when I'm reading more of that, okay. The one thing to bear in mind is that Peter Schiff has been telling you that Bitcoin is trash since it was $1,000. It will never break $10,000. It did. It will never break $25,000 and $50,000. It did. It will never break $100,000. It did. Okay? Bears, over a very long period of time, make themselves look like idiots. And that's pretty much what they are. Anyone who has a mindset that does not change and is fixated on one thing is pretty much an idiot. If you are presented with new information, you have to take that new information on board. I fully believe that we are going to go into a bear market next year. Now, my job is not to come on here and give you unrealistic price targets. I'm not going to sit here and say $300,000 and $250,000 Bitcoin. But likewise, I'm not going to give you a $50,000 Bitcoin target either, because neither of those things are going to come to pass. And bears run out of fortune. Bulls run out of fortune as well. At 125,000, I said we were too soon, high too soon. And we were right. I now think we are at the bottoming out of the price where we are now. And one thing to bear in mind, however we package this up, the economy in America has been starved of liquidity. It's been starved of an injection of not just money, but of also bullish nature. 45 days or 44 days or whatever the market was shut down for, the government was shut down for, that's going to have a big effect. The October the 10th crash, which was five weeks ago now, I said we'd see floating bodies. And so far, I haven't seen that many floating bodies. Haven't seen too many things go out of business. DAP Radar did shut down yesterday. And if you don't know what DAP Radar is, it's basically an online analytics tool for monitoring volume on exchanges and things, not exchanges, volume on chains and things like that. And it's a sad loss, but if we've come out of that crash with just losing DAP Radar and maybe a couple of funds, Michael Berry, the perma bear, he's been wrong, then I think we've done okay. So it's okay to be bearish. It's okay to have a bearish outlook, but you have to tie it into everything else. You can't just keep saying we're going up and we're going down, because again, that's low IQ thinking. You have to take on board new evidence. Now, if we get no rate cut in December, if we get to January at 80 to 90,000, then the top was 126,000. But as I've kept saying before, we don't know until we're in it, if we're in it. And if we do lose 88 and 85 and 80,000, what do we do when we reach 65 to 70? So you go back and look at the previous all-time highs, and then look at the following all-time high, and then look at the following bear market. And the cycle is you come back down to the top of the previous bull run. That's what you do. We are a really bad cascading liquidation away from breaking down towards the previous all-time high. I'm not saying we're going to lose $20,000. That's crazy. But we're not far off. Think of it this way. We're closer to the bottom than we are now to the top. We are $36,000 away from our all-time high, and we are $20,000 away from the previous all-time high, which is the bottom. So if this ETF edition for Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and XRP, if this is now a case of they are now, instead of flattening the curve, what if they're making the curves, what if they're actually deepening the dips? I don't know. I don't think we're in that situation. It's a question. Anyway, the SEC is to focus, basically, in a nutshell, is going to focus on doing its job. The SEC hasn't been doing its job for 4 years. There was a very concerted effort by the previous administration to shut down crypto, and it was clear as day. That's now been removed, and now we have an SEC that are going to work basically how they should have worked. And again, the one thing the SEC shouldn't do is move from blocking everything to permitting everything. Because again, we'll go back to bulls and bears. Perma bears and perma bulls are low IQ. An SEC that blocks everything and an SEC that allows everything through is a low IQ. Okay, you can't have that. We're going to end up with chaos. If Donald Trump had his way and rates were slashed and every crypto on earth was allowed to trade as an ETF and all of these things happen and money just comes flying into the market, we will overheat and die and everything will burn. The stock markets will burn. We'll have raging inflation. We'll overheat. There'll be a huge correction. It'll be a black swan event like you've never seen, probably 2008 again. You need balance. So the SEC is going to focus on doing its job. And I hope by doing its job, it's going to actually do a job. So it's going to focus on token classification and issuance, New rules expected by 2027, promoting a more adaptive regulatory environment. 2027 is not far off the next election. That's some way away. So it's launched Project Crypto for Structured Regulations, which is great to see. Paul Atkins, great to see. I thought Hester Peirce was going to be put as the head. She didn't get it. I don't know why. Maybe there's other things for her to do there. Maybe there was a hangover from the previous administration. Maybe they didn't want her, but I thought she was the perfect host. She's been called the mother of crypto for the last 4 years. So how she didn't get the job, I do not know. His agenda aims to transition from enforcement to rulemaking, focusing on structured crypto regulations over the coming months. Again, one thing to bear in mind about Gary Gensler. Gary Gensler was enforcement through the courts, and he was trying to build a massive team of lawyers, and he was going to spend all of the billions that he was raking in from the fines from crypto, he was spending on lawyers. He wanted to build an army of lawyers to basically crush every single cryptocurrency. Now you tell me how that is protecting your market. Tell me how that's protecting individuals. It isn't protecting individuals. It's trying to actually stamp out any level of entrepreneurship, growth, everything crushed. And this is probably a better stance. The United States must lead the digital finance revolution by updating our rules to support responsible innovation and investor protection, highlighting the strategic vision for US leadership in global crypto markets. Again, we don't want to talk too much about the SEC. Suffice to say, they are now doing their job, and that is what they are supposed to do. And again, going back to the role of a regulator, it's to regulate a market. Very much like the regulator on your boiler regulates the heat. Okay? You don't regulate something by hitting it very hard with a hammer, do you? Because you tend to break it. Regulator involves twisting the knob. Like the Fed and the interest rates. They try and regulate the heat of the market, turning interest rates up and down. That's what the SEC should do. And I think a lot of people that are new to maybe finance, not just crypto, new to finance, they probably have never experienced an American SEC that isn't trying to sue somebody because maybe you're in your early 20s. But that's why I always like to highlight the UK. The financial services in the UK, the FCA, they do a better job. Not the best job, but a better job. And they've got they've got flaws themselves. But that's how it works. Now, VanEck launches Solana ETF with zero sponsor fees. Again, there is a time to launch an ETF and there is a time not to launch an ETF. And we talked a lot on here about how the fact that Polygon did all of its bullish announcements in June to August 2023, which was the pits of the bear market. They were in the news every week, Polygon. Announcements with Disney, and Starbucks and airlines, and it was fantastic. But it happened in the bear market. It's not going to move. This Solana ETF has been launched during what a lot of people consider to be a brutal move. So although I'm not expecting massive inflows, I am expecting inflows, and in the long term, certainly XRP, Solana, Ethereum and Bitcoin, they're going to do very, very well out of this. Again, the Ethereum ETF, I told you in January, I was saying this Ethereum ETF is doing a lot better than people are talking about, because people are comparing the inflows into Ethereum with the inflows into Bitcoin. They're two massively different valued assets. You need to look at the percentage flows rather than the real numbers. And I haven't got any numbers yet for Solana. But I know the XRP ETF, which we're going to talk about in a minute, that has done ball-busting flows. We need to give these a few weeks to see if these investment advisors are now talking about a basket of 4 ETFs rather than just Bitcoin and Ethereum. Because if that's the case, Solana and XRP are going to catch the headwind of the two bigger ETFs. So VanEck has officially launched the Solana ETF VSOL on NASDAQ as of November the 17th, yesterday, 2026, offering new investment opportunities with zero sponsor fees initially. Now, the thing about this is, it's not just the fees being charged by VanEck. It's also, I believe, the staking fees as well. I believe there are no staking fees for the first $1 billion. That's pretty impressive. Now, it's the wrong time to launch, but by the very essence of it launching, we should be blowing our trumpets, because if you read what other people say about Solana, it's a scam chain, it makes up its numbers, whatever it might be. Okay, put that to one side. Solana, XRP, Ethereum, and Bitcoin. They are now 4 live ETFs in America. They are one of the top 4. So you can sit there on your Cardano Maxi stand or your Kronos Chain stand, and you can scream until you're blue in the face that Solana is made up and it's not anything and it's going to keep coming down and it's an anagram, and if you turn the name around it says something else. You can say what you want, but it's got an ETF and it's going to have inflows, and it has now the eyes of Wall Street on it. Excited to be launching VSOL, and aims to expand access through thoughtful investor-focused products. This reflects a commitment to cost efficiency and regulatory clarity. Solana price trends amid VanEck moves. Again, I don't care about the price right now. This is live. We should be happy. And the next one we should be happy about is, of course, this one. And again, I said in my 2025 predictions, 3 ETFs that would go live this year: Solana, XRP, and Litecoin. The only prediction I have made this year that hasn't come true is Sam Bankman-Fried being released from prison. That's the only one that hasn't come true. And I don't think we're far off. And I tell you what, if he's let out in March next year, I am going to claim absolute victory. I don't care if it's 3 months late. XRP traders hope fresh wave of ETF launches will restore the bull trend. Again, the one thing to bear in mind about this, it doesn't matter what these traders want. XRP and Solana are going to follow the market. Okay? If we're in an upward trend, they will probably outperform. If we're in a downward trend, maybe they will also outperform the negativity. But either way, they're not going to decouple from Bitcoin in the market. So they can want all they want. If Bitcoin goes to 80,000 tomorrow, we're going to see a $1.60, $1.80 XRP. We're going to see a $110, $190 Solana if Bitcoin comes crashing down. So they can want all they want. You know, I want to go and visit Mars in my lifetime. It's not going to happen, is it? I want to go across and walk across the Starship Enterprise. It's not going to happen because it doesn't exist. The XRP can want what they want. It's not going to happen until Bitcoin reverses. And when Bitcoin reverses, by the way, and we do start to see inflows back into the ETFs, then we will see Solana and XRP do incredibly well. Because guess what? The lower the prices come, the more attractive they are to investors. Because if you buy a $100 Solana and it runs back up to 150, 200, then they've made 50 to 100% profit. They will be happy, and they'll be less likely to sell because they've got in at a good entry price. XRP, people get in at $2 to $2.20. Price goes over $3. They've already gained 50%. Everybody wins. So just because the prices are down doesn't mean it's not good long term that we have these ETFs. It's absolutely fantastic news that we have these ETFs, because now we can start talking about baskets. And that's the thing I've been talking about for a while. Baskets where you don't know anything about crypto, but you want to hold a bag of crypto, and you go knock on the door. I want to buy some crypto. And the guy says, well, you can buy Bitcoin, or you can buy the BlackRock basket. It's got Bitcoin, Ethereum, Solana, and XRP. I've heard of all of them. We'll have that. And away they go. And they'll go and buy a bag, and that bag will have multiple coins in. And let's say they put $100,000 in. $60,000 goes into Bitcoin, $20,000 into Ethereum, and $10,000 into XRP and Solana. And that's what they do. And the people that buy those bags, they'll hold them in their 401ks or whatever they hold them in, and they'll hold them for a very long time. And less degens will exist in the future, because the majority of people will start to hold them in their pension funds. And because pension funds make up, believe it or not, a massive, massive percentage of all the stock markets. Right, I'm going to move on a little bit because I think I've been talking for a very long time. 11:55 I have. What are we talking about here? Let's have a look. Who is in chat? Well, we've got Villain Bear in chat, which is nice to see. Nice to see. I hope you turn up tonight, Villain Bear. That's all I'll say. Right. Let us move on to... We've only got 5 minutes left, so we're going to try and keep this a little bit quick. Now, I don't know if anybody remembers this, because it was a long time ago. And one of the things we were talking about were non-fiat-backed stablecoins. And I made a video about Athena Labs because it was being added to Binance at the time. And I specifically said, I am not holding this token. I am not going to hold algorithmic stablecoins or any kind of stablecoin that's backed by Bitcoin or Ethereum. Not because it's going to do well in the bull run, because at one point it was paying 18%. Not because of that, but because it's in a bear market. You can have a stablecoin backed by 150% assets. So Bitcoin, Ethereum make up 150, let's say $150 billion, backing $100 billion worth of stablecoin. Now, when the price corrects 30, 40, 50% to the downside, that 150% over collateralization gets awfully close to 100%. And then we correct further to the downside, and guess what? That stablecoin is under collateralized. And what that means is, if everybody sold their $100 billion worth of EUSD, they'd only get $90 billion or $95 billion of real money back. And that's why I said I will never touch this at all, ever. Now, that was a long time ago we had this conversation. Maybe over a year ago we spoke about this. And it is a threat, but it's not a huge threat anymore because these aren't that big. You've now got the Genius Act where you're talking about Tether and Circle, USD1. There's others up there which are very, very large. But for me, you don't go near these. Why is it paying you 18%? Because it's bribing you to come and use their chain. So they are proposing emergency measures to stabilize USDE and extreme DPEG cases. So it's not just happened yet. Okay, it's not happened yet. Let's make that one thing very, very clear. I need to make that bigger. I can't see a damn thing. I can't really go through all of this. I don't have a lot of time. So basically, it plans to use 1.2% of backing assets, around $95 million, to buy discounted. Okay, right. This is never a good sign. They're going to buy their own. They're going to buy their own stablecoin back with their assets. If it goes to 95 cents. The move follows an October incident where USDE briefly crashed to 65 cents on Binance despite the protocol remaining fully solvent. The proposal is under review by Athena's risk committee as the stablecoin's rapid growth heightens expectations for stronger peg protection tools. Now, again, I don't have a lot of time. All I'll say is, don't go near algorithmic stablecoins. That's what I'm going to say. Okay? Now, quote me on that. I don't care. It's not a good look. And a DPEG can happen. And I think I've said this to you before. If Tether and Circle DPEG, and let's say go to 90 cents, buy it by all means. Okay? If an algorithmic stablecoin, when Bitcoin hits $75,000, when it hits $75,000, it depegs. There is not enough money backing that stablecoin to repay you. And that means you don't get your money back. And I don't care how they dress this up. But when you get to the point of selling your assets to buy back your own coin, you're back into Luna and UST territory. And you don't want to do that, okay? So, not all stable coins are created equally. And in my opinion, you should hold, if you want to hold stable coins, Tether and Circle should be your number 1 and number 2, in my opinion. And I think there's one on Binance as well, FDUSD, I think. Binance had a perfectly fine stable coin and the American government shut it down. There we go. Trump International, Maldives Hotel will offer tokenized real estate investments. The Trump Organization is tokenizing the development of its latest real estate ventures, a collection of luxury villas in the Maldives. Again, I think World Liberty Finance is going to do incredibly well in the next 3 years. I think the Trump family are trying to extract as much wealth out of crypto as possible. And both of those things can be true. And I don't want to say too much, clearly, because, you know, the AI algorithm might take what I've said the wrong way. But I would be very careful about touching anything other than World Liberty Finance and USD1. I'd be very careful about getting involved in anything like this, in my opinion. But it's only my opinion, and that is where we will leave that, because we're going to run out of time, and I don't want to run out of time. Right then, it's 12:02, and we have finished. Just give me 1 second. So what I'm going to do is very briefly tell you that we are back tonight at 7 p.m. for our Wolfies quiz. Now, this is the last stream I will probably do for, I don't know, maybe a few days, maybe a few weeks, I don't know. I'm going to have an operation on my eye tomorrow, and I could be perfectly fine in 2 days. I could be streaming again on Friday, I don't know. So it's a little bit up in the air with regards to me coming on here and trying to navigate you through idiotic bears and idiotic price predictions. It's very difficult to do that when I can't see. So I'm going to try and update you on when I'm going to be back. Not that there's many people watching this right now, because most people have basically capitulated. But for those of you that are here, I'll be back tonight with the Oracle for this quiz. It's at 7 p.m. For those of you that are in a different time zone, that's 7 hours from now. There's going to be 2 sets of prizes, 5 winners on Binance and 7 winners on YouTube. So there's going to be 5 on Binance, 7 on YouTube, 4 lucky spins, and the top 3 will win. And the questions have been updated. They are not the identical questions that we had the quiz before. I've updated them. So in terms of the number of Wolfies, the treasuries, all that kind of stuff, it's all been updated. So they are fresh questions, but they are very similar questions. It's very difficult to ask 25 questions about any topic without some kind of overlap. So be very, very mindful of the fact that some of the questions will be the same, but some of the answers will be different. So until tonight, take care and avoid the bears. See you soon.